Good evening, good afternoon, good morning, good whatever time it is, wherever you are, whoever you are, and welcome once again to Nerd Week Live, the show in which we, the folks at Nerd Caliber, talk to you about nerd news that has happened over the past week since our last show last Tuesday. I'm Rodney Brown. I'm the editor in chief of Nerd Caliber, first person shooter on Facebook and Instagram as a cosplay photographer, Burley underscore adopter on Twitter. That one. And Burley Adopter on a couple other places like Mastodon and so on. Before we get into our first topic, as I usually try to do, we're going to drop this little promo. If you have a Twitch account, we'd certainly love to have you follow us on Twitch. The URL is right there on your screen, twitch.tv/nerdcaliber. We stream this show on Twitch, on Facebook Live, and on YouTube Live every week. Pretty much every week. We're trying to grow that audience there on Twitch. So if you do have an account, please check us out, twitch.tv/nerdcaliber. Speaking of YouTube, we already have somebody in the YouTube chat. Ashley, welcome to the show. Hello. And if you do want to chime in with your opinion about anything that we're talking about, or any of my opinions on any of the things that we're talking about, please do. We love to respond in real time. Let's get into the very first topic. All right, that very first topic is a little tiny piece of surprise news about the Super Mario Brothers movie. The Super Mario Brothers movie was scheduled to open in a little bit more than a month, April 7th, Friday, April 7th, and for whatever reason, Universal has decided to move that up a little bit to Wednesday, April 5th. I don't know why. They haven't announced why. There isn't anything I can see, at least that we have on our coverage calendar, that interferes with that date. There are movies that open the Friday before it and movies that open the Friday after it that it might not want to run into. But nothing on Friday the 7th. So why move it to April the 5th? I have no idea. But they have done so. So you get to see it a little bit earlier, although it is in fact already a little bit later than it was supposed to. Super Mario Brothers, the Super Mario Brothers movie, its full title, was supposed to open on December 21st this last year. So they kicked it out. Hattie, welcome to the show there on YouTube. Pardon me for leaning in like that. I've got one contact out because of infection in my eye. So I have to kind of lean in and squint whenever something pops up. So I don't know why Harry Brady, welcome to the show. Welcome back to the show. I don't know why they made this move, but if you're looking forward to it, this is good news. You get to see it a little bit earlier, and, it's not going to be on a crowded Friday night. Of course, it's going to be on a Wednesday night, so you have to go to work the next day. Not that you're going to get out of the Super Mario Brothers movie and, go drinking heavily to party on about Super Mario. Maybe. No judgment. So Wednesday, April 5th, that's pretty much it. No other big news related to it. All right. Our next bit of news is going to contain... that's not going to work. I need to fade back to Super Mario Brothers, bring this in, turn it on, and now fade me over here. A content warning about clowns. If you are deathly afraid of clowns and they freak you out, this is a pretty freaky photo, then you may want to look away. I'll say clowns are gone when we're done with that image. And I won't have the image up there very long. So, this next topic, clowns are coming. Clown is coming. Fair warning. Is about the series that contains this wonderful character, Pennywise the Clown. This is the amazing Brandon the Shapeshifter cosplaying as Pennywise. And the news is that HBO Max is making a prequel series about the town of Derry, which is where Pennywise and all of the things that happen in the movies, the books, the TV miniseries Clown's going away right now. There you go. And the TV series or miniseries, all of that takes place in the fictional town of Derry, Maine. So this is a prequel series. There's nothing in the information that we have here from this Deadline article or what Stephen King tweeted out. Stephen King has confirmed this. That says when it's set, but or even that it includes Pennywise. That's not mentioned in any of the stuff that they're talking about. Although this is a quote from Stephen King. I'm excited that the story of Derry, Maine's most haunted city is continuing, and I'm glad Andy Muschietti is going to be overseeing the frightening festivities along with the Brain Trust, including his talented sister Barbara. Red balloons all around. So if they're red balloons, that sort of implies that Pennywise is going to be involved. But they don't say that for sure in this release. The reference to the Muschiettis, Andy and Barbara Muschietti, were the filmmakers behind the most recent It and It Chapter 2. So they're going to be the ones developing this for TV. Jason Fuchs is going to be writing the first episode and will serve as co-showrunner. Fuchs wrote It Chapter 2 and was one of the writers of the movie Wonder Woman. So the people behind this are solid. It's got King's endorsement. It's the filmmakers behind the last two movies. The writers of It Chapter 2, the second of the last two movies, and Wonder Woman. There's an awful lot that makes this look like it could be a really good thing. My only question is, if it does include Pennywise, are they going to bring Bill Skarsgård back, who was Pennywise in the most recent two movies? If they don't have Pennywise, I'm not sure that they're going to actually get enough people to watch it, frankly. They can invent all sorts of other horrible things, and you get the impression that Pennywise's presence caused a lot of other horrible things to happen. So they could focus on just the other horrible things, but Pennywise is the big draw. And they certainly do have within the lore of the books and so on that Pennywise appears, at a fairly regular period of time throughout the history of the town of Derry. So they certainly could do, like, each season is a previous appearance of Pennywise. Harry, I'm looking forward to how they make the prequel Pennywise series to continue on the story before It Chapter 1 and It Chapter 2. I am too. I really hope they do include Pennywise in it. And if they do, I hope they bring Bill Skarsgård back. He played a completely different character in Castle Rock, the Hulu series, but he was amazing in that as well. So he's got a history of doing television that Stephen King was closely involved in. King was very closely involved in making sure that adaptation or that interpretation of the town of Castle Rock and some of the stories that took place there were part of his or close enough to his vision of his type of horror. And it seems like he's going to be fairly well involved in this series as well. So I'm hoping that Skarsgård is going to be coming back for this. And if he is, maybe they've been holding this announcement off, to make another big announcement. Oh, by the way, Skarsgård is coming back. So I can't get rid of this particular content warning until I move this screen off to a different screen. So we're moving on to our next topic, so I can do that. And this topic is about the fact that right there, Steven Yeun, is joining the cast of the upcoming MCU Thunderbolts movie in an unnamed role. It was reported as an exclusive from Deadline, but later on, Variety reported it as a straight-up done deal, whereas Deadline says their sources say it. So apparently nobody has actually confirmed this, but then again, Marvel doesn't usually for a while. They let this stuff leak out. I mean, give Deadline and Variety and the Hollywood Reporter, their due. They have people who are connected enough to get the stuff that Marvel probably lets leak out. But I really like this casting, and I hope that they're going to have Steven Yeun play the character Amadeus Cho. He is one of the more popular, I wouldn't say linchpin, but pretty important characters introduced in the last decade and a half, I guess, in Marvel Comics. And they're both Korean American. It works out pretty well. Amadeus Cho in the comics is still a teenager, so they would obviously have to write the character up. And he was never a member of the Thunderbolts, but then again, the MCU Thunderbolts were never, I don't think anybody on the MCU Thunderbolts was ever in the comics Thunderbolts teams. So that doesn't matter at all. And he's a great character. If they take him before he wound up essentially becoming a Hulk, he is now currently known as the superhero Brawn, which is a play on the fact that his actual power or his ability is that his brain is essentially a quantum supercomputer. He can calculate anything that happens anywhere where he's aware of it in almost instantaneous fashion, any possibility, which makes him almost impossible to kill. It makes him, if he wants to be, deadly with anything he shoots, throws, whatever. He can stop missiles, and he has in the comics, with a mirror. So he's a really amazing character. He's not a super genius in the sense that Reed Richards or Peter Parker or Tony Stark are engineering super geniuses. But they do a great job, or all of the writers I've seen in the comics I've read of him, do a great job of utilizing his ability as a sort of walking supercomputer. Where he doesn't need the armor. He does, his brain works so quickly and can see so many possibilities that he's close to invulnerable. So I think that would be an amazing character to have in the MCU anyway, but certainly on the Thunderbolts in the previous version. I don't think they can make him the Hulk version. They've already got three Hulks. Scar is now in the MCU. If but for a brief second in a closing credit scene, but with really weird hair. I think that if they stick to the three Hulks they already have, and stick to Amadeus Cho as the super genius character, then I think that would work really well. Again, I have no idea if that's the character. I have no idea if he's a member of the team. I mean, he could be a villain. There's just so many different ways they could take this character. But I think it would be a shame where Marvel has done a pretty good job lately of having casting into proper ethnicities to not have Steven Yeun portraying somebody like Amadeus Cho. I think it would be spot on. And Yeun looks young enough that he could play just post-teenager. He could still play young 20s. So, yeah. That's my take on it. I really hope that's what happens. Oh, and it led me into discovering that apparently, and we missed this almost exactly a month ago, they had also cast, back at the end of January, Ayo Edebiri, and if I butchered that name, I do apologize, who was one of the stars of the FX series, the very popular and well-reviewed FX series, The Bear, has been cast in the Thunderbolts movie as well in what they're, in this article, calling a new secret role. Since the MCU Thunderbolts do not match the comic book Thunderbolts, for the most part, who knows who the character is? Maybe they do want to have somebody from the comics Thunderbolts, and that's why they're adding this character. I don't think it's going to be somebody that would be, say, a mutant. If only because, why would they do that? All right, I was about to say, why would they do that and sort of waste the big reveal? But they've already revealed mutants exist at the end of Ms. Marvel. Kamala Khan is able to utilize the armbands that she has the way she does because she's a mutant. So I guess that might be the way for them to introduce mutants into the MCU, is to sort of just have them the world become aware that they exist by introducing them piecemeal in other things. But who knows? So Ayo Edebiri and Stephen Yeun joining the Thunderbolts. I'm really looking forward to finding out more about this. I really like the idea of the movie. Of course, you don't know. It's, sort of Marvel's Suicide Squad, and the cast that is going to be in the MCU movie version. Florence Pugh as Yelena Belova, Sebastian Stan as the Winter Soldier, David Harbour as Red Guardian, Julia Louis-Dreyfus as Countess Allegra de Fontaine, or Valentina Allegra de Fontaine. I don't think they ever call her Countess in the MCU. Wyatt Russell as U.S. Agent, and Hannah John Kamen as Ghost, Olga Kurylenko as Taskmaster. And now Stephen Yeun and Ayo Edebiri. So I like this idea. I've always liked the Thunderbolts anyway. I know it's been announced as to when this is coming out. Here we go, July 26, 2024. So, a year and a few months. All right, moving on to our next topic. I skipped right over it here. Here we go. This is a screen grab from the recent Netflix movie Guillermo del Toro's Pinocchio. And it's not about that movie. Luminous, welcome to the show. Yes, we are all... Luminous says, I'm counting down to Mandalorian Season 3, as are we all. I'm assuming we all. I certainly am. But the news isn't about Pinocchio. It is about the fact that Del Toro and the studio that worked with him on this, which I had in my head right here, and just a Shadow Machine, are working together again with Netflix to make another stop-motion animation movie based on the book The Buried Giant, a fantasy novel by Nobel Prize-winning British writer Kazuo Ishiguro. I absolutely am ashamed that I had no idea who that person is. Ishiguro wrote Remains of the Day and Never Let Me Go, both of which were turned into very well-reviewed movies. Never Let Me Go was adapted by Alex Garland. Ishiguro's work is obviously fantastic. I've never read this book, or actually any of Ishiguro's works. Greg on our team has, and said that it's a fantastic book. He's very much looking forward to this. Del Toro is producing, co-writing, and directing. And the other writer is Dennis Kelly, who was the writer of Matilda the Musical. So I'm really looking forward to this. It's Del Toro. It's this fantastic, brilliant writer. I don't know if you're into period drama, because that's mostly what Ishiguro is known for. But if you are, Remains of the Day and to a lesser extent Never Let Me Go are both fantastic movies. Remains of the Day particularly. Just wonderful. But check it out check it out. That's what I'm going to be saying about an upcoming trailer. We'll have more information when we get more information. But I think this is going to be, a really big thing, particularly if Del Toro continues to clean up in the animated categories and the award shows, with the Oscars coming up. So check it out. We'll have more info for you as we get it. All right, sticking with both Netflix and stop-motion animation, oddly enough, This is the only image that has been released from the upcoming first time ever Pokemon stop motion series called Pokemon Concierge, which is a series that is going to be coming to Netflix. What you're looking at here is obviously Psyduck, but with Psyduck is the main character, Haru. Haru is, I'm assuming, the concierge of the title, works as a concierge at the Pokemon Resort. And the series is about her interactions with both Pokemon and their owners, or their trainers, or whatever, who come to visit the resort. It's made by Dwarf Studios. The stop motion animation is done by Dwarf Studios. They did. I have to bring this up here. The only thing that I can see that they did as a full series is they did the stop motion on a 2019 anime called Rilakkuma and Kaoru, which is about a woman and her two moving sentient pet teddy bears. And that animation looks quite a bit like this. As it turns out, I also found out they did the stop motion animation for the opening theme of the anime Beastars, which is fantastic. I mean, it helps that it's just an absolutely amazing song. Just fantastic banger of a song. But the stop motion animation, which is much rougher looking than this, and I think that's deliberate. I think that's what they were going for. Is also done by Dwarf Studios. So they've definitely got a track record of doing this kind of stop motion work. And I've not watched a Pokemon anime since my son was 8, maybe. So, yeah, I don't know that I'm going to jump into this, but I really like their work. And if the stories are interesting, I may actually check this out. Now, as to when we get to check it out, let's see. If I doubt that they say anything about it here, because again, it is Netflix, and they generally don't like to give too much information out. No, I don't see anything in the article. But looks pretty interesting, so we'll keep an eye on that. All right, moving on to our next topic. It is, he says, as he's looking desperately, the trailer dropped kind of surprisingly for me, because I didn't know that this was happening, really, or I had completely forgotten it was happening, for the Disney Plus movie Peter, Pan and Wendy. This is Wendy Darling, as played by Ever Anderson. Peter is played by young actor Alexander Maloney. All of the cast, young people, or most of the cast, people you've never heard of. Captain Hook is being played by Jude Law. And if you watch the trailer, it doesn't look anything like Jude Law, except for the voice, you'd never tell. And Smee is being played by Jim Gaffigan, of all people. I don't know if you know Jim Gaffigan, American comic from the Midwest. Very funny guy. So this looks like it could be really good. It is described by Disney and in the article as a reimagining of the original 1953 animated Peter Pan. So they're not calling it a live action remake, which is maybe why it has a slightly different title. But aside from, a little bit more of a focus on Wendy and some minor changes, like there are girls in the Lost Boys, which realistically makes sense. It's essentially exactly the same story. Same structure of the flow of the story, an awful lot of the same scenes that, like Peter chasing his shadow around the Darling's bedroom, things like that, that are straight out of the 1953 animated version. So it's probably safe to call it a live action remake, even though Disney doesn't want to call it that. But this is being made by Lowry, David Lowry. Come on. David Lowry, who last thing he made was The Green Knight. The wildly trippy, surreal, really well done, visually stunning movie, The Green Knight. And I wonder to what extent Lowry had any role in the casting of this. Because if you've seen The Green Knight, you know that it is about as race blind a cast as you can imagine. Harry, official trailer for Peter Pan and Wendy Hook looks interesting to see. Jude Law plays Captain Hook. Yes, he does. So in The Green Knight, it's obviously set during the mythological Arthurian times, and if Arthur probably never did, but if he actually did exist, it would have been like 6th century, 5 something AD, 520, 530. The idea that there was the main character, Gawain, or Gawain, because it's pronounced in the Irish way, or the Celtic way, in the movie, is played by Dev Patel. And the idea that there was anybody of anything like Indian extraction living in England in the 520s or 530s is pretty unlikely. I mean, you could make a stretch that there might have been some people who looked a little bit more like Iranian, because of the Sarmatians and so on, that were part of the legions that were there, but those legions had been pulled out, so unless some of the people stayed, he cast because he likes Dev Patel. He's a great actor, and it was one of those, I don't care what the character looks like, my Sir Gawain is going to look like Dev Patel. And I think that's probably the attitude that he brought to this. Tinkerbell is being played by Yara Shahidi. So, as you might imagine, that person is not a pale blonde tiny fairy, and that's fine by me. That's great. I'm sure that this person was cast because they're really good for the role. So, I'm actually kind of looking forward to this, which I had no idea that this was even happening. And the fact that Lowry is the one making it, and he made the live action Peach Dragon before they even really got a chance to dive deep into the commitment to making live action remakes. I mean, that was sort of their, dip their toes in the water. Wasn't a huge hit, but it made enough money, but it was really well reviewed and well received. So he's got a track record working with Disney. This is going to be on Disney Plus. It's dropping April 28th. So it's essentially all done. Again, no idea. But I'm looking forward to it. I like Lowry's The Green Knight was just amazing. Watch it when you're really wide awake, because it's pretty slow, but it's also mind-boggling and absolutely beautiful. All right, moving on to our next topic. And that is actually, I believe, let me scroll down here. Yes, that is our last topic for the night. This is not the cast of the upcoming first movie in the upcoming new trilogy of movies based on The Lord of the Rings that New Line Cinema and Warner Brothers Pictures have announced that they are going to be making. This is, of course, from the really hilarious greatest trilogy of all time, or whatever it's called, the rap, the brilliant Stephen Colbert rap, when the Lord of the Rings trilogy was announced as the greatest trilogy of all time. I think it was like 2020 or 2021. Anyway, if you haven't seen it, go on YouTube, look it up. It's really funny. But the news is that New Line Cinema and Warner Brothers has made a deal with Embracer Group, which bought the IP for Tolkien, to team on this new Lord of the Rings movies. CEO of Warner Brothers Discovery, David Zaslav, made that announcement during their most recent earnings call. And yeah, why? What? No, I get. They're making a movie. It's coming out on April 12th. The Lord of the Rings: The War of the Rohirrim, an animated movie, or an anime actually, set during the times of Helm Hammerhand, for whom Helm's Deep is named. So yeah, there are things you can do to mine this individual one-off interesting stories. What can you make from the Lord of the Rings intellectual property that is going to stretch out properly, not like The Hobbit, over 3 full movies? I mean, while they tried making the Rings of Power, and they only had access to a certain amount of intellectual property that they could use, and it turned out to be, in my mind, pretty poor. Looked great, awful story. That was Amazon, of course, that did that. This is going to be made as a series of movies by New Line Cinema and Warner Brothers. But there's a couple of things here. Embracer Group is a game company. And when they bought the rights to Middle-earth and created this Middle-earth Enterprises team within Embracer Group, it was generally assumed, if they did not straight out say, that they were going to be using it to create more gaming content. And now, before they even put out a new game, they've announced that they've licensed it to, or they're teaming up with, they've licensed it to New Line and Warner Brothers for the purpose of making movies. I don't know. We've been joking around in our internal group. This could be like, a 3-movie backstory of Tom Bombadil. There's not enough in any book to even hint at being able to create a 1-movie backstory of Tom Bombadil that isn't completely made up out of stuff that has absolutely no reference whatsoever in any of the Tolkien works. I don't know. What are you going to do? What are you going to make out of this? I guess you could sort of make the story of the last alliance of elves and men, but that's kind of where, if it continues all the way to the end, where the Amazon series The Rings of Power is going. Luminous, they are not going to remake the same movies. It has been 20 years. That, from what I understand, that's not where they're going. However, in a later article, Peter Jackson and his writing partners Fran Walsh and Philippa Boyens have said they're very encouraged about this. They haven't said that they've been approached about being involved in it. But they said, Warner Brothers and Embracer have kept us in the loop every step of the way. We look forward to speaking with them further to hear their vision for the franchise moving forward. That doesn't say that it's not going to be remakes. If it's going to be remakes, why would you bring Peter Jackson back? No, he's already done his story. He's already done his take on it. Yes, it's only been, or it has been 20 years, as you point out, Luminous. And certainly things have been rebooted in shorter times than that, much shorter times than that. But, you know, why would you need to or want to remake a trilogy that has won more awards, including Oscars, than any fantasy movie, probably all fantasy movies combined? Um, it's nigh on perfect as a trilogy where it stands. Um, so what are you going to do? Just now. Granted, it's Warner Brothers; they want money, and people will go see it, and people will compare it to Peter Jackson's original trilogy if they are remaking the trilogy, and they'll do so badly. Um, I mean, realistically, the odds of them even coming to the level of the quality of the first trilogy or of the trilogy made by Peter Jackson, and certainly the odds of them going beyond it and making something, both different and better, are minuscule in my mind. I mean, I don't really see how they could do it. So, and if that's the case, if they are rebooting the trilogy, they are doing it literally just as a cash grab. Everything you make in movies and anything you make anywhere is essentially a cash grab. I get that. But this is a pretty crass, insulting cash grab. Now, the fact that they have Jackson and his writing team involved, as they say, every step of the way, either implies that they are okay with what's happening, or, and might be involved, or they're okay with what's happening because Jackson probably has some sort of, deal through New Line that gives him a piece of the back end of anything New Line makes with this property. I don't know if that's the case. I don't know if it could still be the case with Embracer Group owning it, owning the intellectual property behind Lord of the Rings. But, I can't imagine him being on board with them remaking the trilogy completely in the way that he seems to be if there wasn't some big payments in the back end going, please be on board with this. So, no, it's very, very commercial in my mind at this point. And there doesn't seem to be any artistic decision to make it, whether they're remaking the trilogy or they're mining the IP for something that they think they can make into a new trilogy. I hope that actually it's the latter, because I'd like to see them come up with something, God forbid they stretch something out like The Hobbit, but come up with something that literally could be turned into, a trilogy. And there might be plenty of stuff in there. But, who knows? I don't have an answer yet. This is just announced. And I will await being pleasantly surprised that they're going to give us something that's worth paying attention to, as opposed to giving us a really crass commercial money grab. But that's it. That's it, folks. That's our show for the night. Thank you all for tuning in. Thank you, everybody, for the chats. And we will see you at an upcoming show. Our upcoming conventions are, we'll be at PAX East at the end of March. A couple of weekends after that, we'll be at Anime Boston. A couple of weekends after that, we'll be at Wicked Comic Con at the Heinz here in Boston. We might be at one or two in between. Still working on some stuff there. Got to dot some I's and cross some T's. We'll be at Free Comic Book Day in early May, all over the place. MegaCon down in Florida in the middle of May. So check us out on upcoming con. Check us out on this show next week, next Tuesday. In the meantime, I hope you all had a good February. I hope you have a good March. And please do stay safe at any con you're going out to. Please remember to wear that mask. Anime Boston just put up their revised COVID requirements, and the requirements now are you have to have a vaccine, but that does not include having the boosters. And you are not required to wear a mask, but you are strongly encouraged to wear a mask. I am strongly encouraging you to wear a mask, because I'll be at PAX East, or I'll be at the Anime Boston. I'll be at PAX East all weekend too, but I'll be at Anime Boston all weekend, and I don't want to get nothing. So please be safe out there, folks. Please do the smart thing. We'll see you at an upcoming show. Good night, and bye-bye.